Hey guys, I wanted to make a video about The Mandalorian. I loved it. It is amazing. I have so many thoughts and so many theories. So I wanted to make a video about it, and I probably will do multiple videos about The Mandalorian because there is so much to talk about. So, firstly, Dave Filoni directed the pilot. I don't know if he directs any of the other episodes, but he directed the pilot, and he's an executive producer on the show. And when I watched it, to me, it felt like a live action version of Rebels and Clone Wars, and I mean that in the best way possible. A lot of fans for a long time have wanted Dave Filoni to direct a live action Star Wars project, and he definitely deserved it. And if I saw Dave Filoni, I would give him a big congrats. So if by any crazy chance Dave Filoni happens to see this video, congratulations, Dave Filoni, on directing the pilot and being executive producer in the show. There is so much in The Mandalorian that is directly tied to Mandalorian storylines that have happened in the show, the Clone Wars show, and Star Wars Rebels. It is 100% Mandalorian. Like, it goes really deep into who the Mandalorians are. When I heard that Dave Filoni was going to be an executive producer for this show and that he was directing the pilot, I wasn't surprised by that because he wrote the Mandalorian storylines with George Lucas in the Clone Wars, and then he wrote them in Star Wars Rebels. The attitude of the Mandalorian is 100% Mandalorian. The way they talk about the Mandalorians being warriors, the armor, it's all tied to Mandalorian storylines and Rebels and Clone Wars and other stories in the expanded universe that have focused on the Mandalorians. In the pilot, they talk about the tribes. They talk about how they've had tribes. It is 100% Mandalorian. So one of the key things I want to talk about is there's a moment between the Mandalorian and this old alien character that guides him when he's looking for his bounty in the pilot. So the old alien says to him how he's never met a Mandalorian and how he's heard of him and how he's heard of his people. And he talks about how he's helping him. He talks about how he's helping the Mandalorian because he believes that he can bring hope because Mandalorians have brought hope. So that made me think of a couple things. One, there was a Mandalorian Jedi. Two, the Mandalorians helped defeat the Empire and Rebels. In the end of Rebels, Sabine unites the Mandalorians. She unites the clans and the houses and whatnot with Bo-Katan, with the Darksaber, and they fight against the Empire and they help the rebellion. They help the rebellion win. The Mandalorians do. Now, if you don't know this, the name of the Mandalorian Jedi was named Tar Vizsla, and they talk about it in Rebels, especially in great detail. There's a clip, and they talk about how he was the only Mandalorian Jedi 1,000 years ago. They talk about this in Rebels. So, they haven't explicitly said this, but the Mandalorians are force sensitive because of Tar Vizsla, and there's also other things too. In Rebels, Sabine is able to wield a lightsaber. She fights with a lightsaber, and she's a Mandalorian, and she's able to wield the Darksaber, and Bo-Katan is able to wield the Darksaber. And like I said, even though they haven't explicitly said that Mandalorians are force sensitive, they are, and that's why Jango was able to kill Jedi, is because he was a force sensitive. And another example of the Mandalorians being force sensitive is at the end of the pilot when the Mandalorian finds the bounty of the 50-year-old, and it turns out to be the species of Yoda. I call him Baby Yoda. When he finds Baby Yoda reaches out with his finger and he taps his finger, and he's reaching out with the Force because there's that Force connection, because Mandalorians are Force sensitive. And I'm pretty sure that all of the species of Yoda, I think all of them are Force sensitives. And then I was right in the second episode when Baby Yoda used the Force to save him. I was like, he's going to use the Force. He's going to use the Force. Baby Yoda is the cutest thing I have ever seen. And when I was watching the second episode, I was like, this is the best thing ever. A adorable Baby Yoda with a Mandalorian. This is the best thing for me as a fan. So this is not the first time that bad guys have wanted to kill a Force-sensitive child. This theme has actually been used repeatedly, and there's a purpose for this. This theme was used in Clone Wars when Palpatine was kidnapping Force-sensitive babies. It was used in Rebels. Bad guys have been trying to either kill or kidnap Force-sensitive kids. So this theme is going to have a reason, because it's been used over and over again. And even in Rebels, Ahsoka talks about how they need to protect the children. So this is going to come back into play in the overall picture of Star Wars. I definitely believe that this show is going to tie in to Episode 9. I believe it for a couple of reasons. One, the timing. This show is coming out before the movie, and they could put any live action Star Wars show about anything, about any timeline, any time period, and people would watch it because it's Star Wars. But they're doing a Mandalorian show before Episode 9 is coming out. And I remember when I was watching Rebels, when Rebels was on, I was like, they're bringing back Mandalorian storylines from the Clone Wars, which in retrospect was a long time ago. So I remember thinking the Mandalorians are going to show back up. They're obviously going to show back up in the future. And if you've seen my past videos, I have theories when Rebels was on why I thought the Mandalorians could show up in Episode 9 and why I thought Sabine could show up. And I remember when I heard that the first live action Star Wars television show was called The Mandalorian, I was like, this makes sense, because there were so many Mandalorian storylines in Rebels, and this happens to be the next project, the live action show. The first live action show is called The Mandalorian, literally called The Mandalorian. And if you've seen my past theory videos where I talked about how I thought Rey could be a Kenobi, and if Satine, who was the Mandalorian queen, is Rey's grandmother, because Satine and Obi-Wan had a love affair, that would make Rey a Mandalorian. So I think that one of the reasons why they made this live action Mandalorian show is for people who have not seen any of the animated shows, who don't know about the Mandalorians. They're going to learn about the Mandalorians from watching the live action show. Logically, it would make sense if they're setting it up for Episode 9 and there were clips where it showed the Mandalorian being hidden as a child. Well, Rey could have been hidden as a child too. And when the old alien was talking to the Mandalorian and he was talking to him about how the Mandalorians had brought hope, it made me think if that dialogue was a hint for Episode 9, if Rey is going to bring hope and she's a Mandalorian. I also think the show is such a genius idea too, because you can have Boba Fett show up. They've announced that he's alive, but he's hasn't shown up in anything. And even though the Boba Fett movie was canceled, the quote Obi-Wan movie was canceled too, but there's going to be an Obi-Wan series. So Boba Fett could easily show up, and Boba Fett's Mandalorian, so that would make a lot of sense. You could have Sabine show up in the Mandalorian show because she lives in Rebels, and we don't know what happens to her except that she goes off of Ahsoka. But beyond that, we don't know what else happens to Sabine yet. So as far as the mood of the show goes, it definitely feels like a Star Wars show. It feels like a Star Wars story. It has Star Wars vibes. It has the classic Star Wars feel. Yes, like there are points where you can tell it's a television show. It's not bad quality. I mean, the budget is super expensive. I can't remember how much it is per episode, but each episode is incredibly expensive from what I read. The music is great. The music fits the mood of the show. It fits the character being a Mandalorian. So overall, the first 2 episodes are fantastic. One of my favorite moments from episode 2 is when Baby Yoda was trying to heal the Mandalorian when the Mandalorian was cut, and Baby Yoda kept stretching out, like trying to get close to him, and he kept like putting him back in his little cradle thing. I'm pretty sure that Baby Yoda was trying to force heal him. That's what that was about in that scene. I loved seeing the Jawas in episode 2. I think the show is going to have a lot of significance with the whole storyline overall, Star Wars. I mean, they, like I said before, they really go into who the Mandalorians are. They talk about the armor, they talk about the metal. There's a reason for that. They don't have to explain that at all. So it all has significance. As I said before, I definitely think this is leading up to something in episode 9, and I think it's going to go past episode 9, and it's going to connect other things, other storylines. Like, I could see this show having several seasons, and the last season of Clone Wars has not come out yet, and that's going to have the Mandalorian story arc with Ahsoka. So I definitely think that's going to tie into with the Mandalorian show as well. And I didn't know this until I watched the show The Chef on Netflix, which if you haven't seen that, it's a really fun show. It's like fandom meets food meets traveling, everything that I like. So it's a really fun show. But there was an episode where they were cooking at the Skywalker Ranch, and I didn't know, maybe you guys knew this, but I didn't know that Jon Favreau played Pre Vizsla on Clone Wars. I didn't know that he voiced him. I didn't know that he voiced the bad guy. So it makes sense that Jon Favreau is doing the Mandalorian because he knows all the Mandalorian storylines, because he played the bad guy in that whole huge Mandalorian story arc in Clone Wars. And when I was watching the pilot, I was like, who is this famous actor? The one that was giving the job to the Mandalorian. I was like, he looks so familiar. And then I was talking to my mom, and she was like, that's Apollo Creed. I'm like, that's Apollo Creed? Apollo Creed's in Star Wars? So I thought that was pretty cool. And Nick Nolte's in it. And a lot of there's famous names that are in the show. So I think that's very cool as well. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. And I'm going to be posting more videos about The Mandalorian because I love this show. This show is fantastic. I love this show. It is so great. And I have so many theories, and I know I'm going to have more theories as the episodes keep on coming. So be on the lookout for more videos about The Mandalorian. If you have any favorite moments from either of the episodes that you would like to share, let me know in the comment section below, because I would love to talk to you guys about them because I have a ton of favorite moments. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.